Welcome to Can I Get a Witness? This is a podcast brought to you from The Witness, Inc., where we amplify Black brilliance at the intersection of Jesus, joy, and justice. I'm Danielle Mark, and I have the privilege of serving as president of The Witness. This podcast is an invitation to see, to hear, and to celebrate what God is doing through the lives of Black Christian leaders, artists, and thought leaders. Let's jump into today's episode. Pastor Carl Day of North Philadelphia is a servant of Christ, a husband, a father, pastor of Culture Changing Christians Worship Center in Philadelphia, PA. He is also the president and founder of the outreach nonprofit organization Culture Changing Christians, Inc. in Philadelphia, PA. Pastor Carl is also the founder and an executive director of Beat the Block, an award-winning project in Philadelphia that's a paid, holistic, transformative training for young men ages 18 through 25 that's geared towards personal development, professional development, and creating new entrepreneurs, where they believe in building better men and businessmen. Pastor Carl leads on the Philadelphia Mayor's Reconciliation Steering Committee and has facilitated a Participatory Defense Hub in Philly, assisting those who are fighting for their freedom against the justice system. He is also on the board of the Victims and Co-Victims Subcommittee for the Philadelphia Gun Violence Prevention Task Force, as they lead the fight against gun violence in Philadelphia. Pastor Carl has fought through the odds of society and various trials of life, from growing up without his biological father, being a teen parent, and even finding his way into prison at one point of his life. So there is not a person that cannot be reached or related to. Through Christ, Carl has been able to overcome all obstacles and has made it his mission to help change the culture of Philadelphia and many at-risk cities so that youth across the country will not make the same mistakes nor be influenced by the horrible culture that is surrounding them. He is not only the pastor of a church, he's a leader in the community, heavily involved in the city of Philadelphia, getting his hands dirty. He leads culture-changing Christians as they feed the homeless, mentors, and provides needs and resources for at-risk youth. He regularly preaches at various churches, speaks at conferences, high schools, and colleges. There isn't an audience Pastor Carl cannot reach. Well, Pastor Carl, thank you so much for taking time to be here with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Appreciate the invite.
Yeah, of course, of course. So paint a picture for us, for our listeners, about what it was like for you growing up. What was life like for Carl?
Man, I was born and raised in North Philly. My mother had me, was pregnant with me at 19. She had my older brother just a year and a half prior. My real father was in and out of jail my whole life. So, yeah, don't have a relationship with him. My mom married and later married and, I had two parents in the household. But at the same time, pretty much grew up in an environment that, we see that have stricken America, where major cities been impoverished, drugs being sold, violence, a lot of the things that are still relevant till today. Ultimately in my life, I ended up succumbing to a lot of things that was going on in my environment. I ultimately kind of ended up replicating the same things. I had my first son at, 18. I'm 40, he'll be 22 next month. And at one point in my life, I ended up getting caught up in the same things that my friends that basically were my brothers as well growing up got caught up into through our neighborhoods. Found myself in a jail cell at 22 and went through trials and tribulations. So like growing up, I encountered a lot of same things that I'm out here, combating and trying to eradicate to this day.
Yeah.
So that's in a very, very truncated way. But, I'm blessed to be who I am and where I am today and serving God and knowing God.
Amen. Amen. What would you say are 3 words that would describe how you were as a child, as a teenager growing up?
3 words as a child, as a teenager growing up. One is intelligent. I was, I don't know, my mom loved and hated that about me. Like, I made honor roll without trying in high school. Like, so I always was a learner, always cared to learn. So I prided myself on being smart. I believe that I was always ambitious. Like, I just always kind of wanted to aim high. And then 3, I believe that, I would say competitive. I played sports growing up as well. And for me, like, because I was ambitious, always desiring more, and being competitive, like even when doing the wrong things, I felt like I just had to be the best, or I had to be great at whatever it was that I'd done. So I think those 3 things transcended even on the other side of doing right. So, so yeah, those are things that kind of drive me and push me today, outside of obviously just a figure.
Yeah, yeah. So who was the first person in your life to affirm those qualities about you, those positive qualities that you're able to still walk in today?
That I'm still able to walk in. That's a good question. Honestly, I think that I would probably say, yeah, most likely I would say my mother. And for various reasons, but like, she would definitely always talk about how smart I was, and would kind of brag to people about how smart I was. And also I was like tasked with having to help my little brothers with their homework because I was a smart one. So, and if I was doing anything dumb, she'd tell me I'm too smart to be doing dumb stuff. But I would also say, like, just knowing that I always like had ambition and always wanted to do something bigger. Like, your parents always point things out at you about it, so, but then even just being competitive, like, so like that was the bad thing. Like if we played video games in the house, like I'm arguing with my brothers because I'm so competitive, and I got called a sore loser all the time. And I'm like, only losers like to lose. So I don't even know who likes to lose, but that's just not my thing. So I didn't mind being called a sore loser, but I'm like, no, I'm just competitive. But, so I would say, yeah, I think my mom really reaffirmed a lot of that. Just growing up just in different ways, pointing it out. But then people further along begin to see it also from like a positive light, and just, coaches and others would just see that in you and then just be able to highlight and amplify it. So I would probably say, but it started with my mom.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Moms are awesome. They always call out great things. So it's a blessing. Before you were 22, what was the dream? What did you see for your life?
Wow. So I was one of those kids that like grew up loving sports. So I was like, oh, naturally it was like, I gotta play sports. Played football. Was really, really like, I was really, really good. I was good when I was little league and all that kind of stuff. And I ended up like playing freshman year, and things just didn't go right for me. And then that kind of like turned me like sour, that dream, that you had, and then all of a sudden it just begins to dissipate. So, but I will say one of my alternative things was like, I told myself, I'm like, man, I know that I'm good. I'm a good speaker. And I'm like, I know I can negotiate. And I was like, you know what, man, I should be a sports agent.
Yeah.
And that was like a dream of mine.
Okay.
But then like getting caught up into the wrong things pulls you further away from the dream. You start making your money, you're doing what you're doing, you feeling yourself. And it's like, I ain't worrying about that. And I got accepted to colleges and didn't even choose to go to college. I was like, nah, I'm cool. I ain't going to college. So like, crazy as it sounded, it was crazy then for sure. But again, it's like, I don't have no qualms or regrets, because it's like a lot of those things shaped me to go where I went and become who I became. So, definitely wanted to be a sports agent. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I would love to represent the players and advocate for them and fight for them to get paid and everything else. So like, that was definitely like, and I love sports. Like I still love sports now.
Yeah.
So.
Who's your favorite team? Football and basketball.
Football and basketball?
Yeah.
Okay. So.
And another sport if you watch another sport.
Okay. Well, I'll say people in Philly hate me for it, but I'm a Cowboys fan.
Oh. Okay.
Also, basketball, I'll say the New York Knicks. But yeah, like I grew up a Barkley fan, Sixers. They traded them away. I was scoring. I was hurt. I cried. I was a kid at the time, just so people know, so they don't think like it was like recently. But So I like, and he lost to Michael Jordan. So I hated Michael Jordan. So I was like, I gotta like a team that hates Michael Jordan as much as I do. So the Knicks couldn't stand Jordan. So I'm like, they're knocking him on the ground. This is my team. So, but shout out to the Sixers. I've worked with the Sixers. One of the part owners is a friend of mine. And so shout out to the Sixers.
Right.
I still got love for them too.
That's great. I love that. I love that. So 22, it sounds like that was something pivotal happened in that season for you. Share with us what happened.
I mean, prior to that, so I would say like a year before, I was doing pretty well for myself. So I was like staying outside the city. And, I started to go to a church that was nearby.
Yeah.
And I met a young reverend, and no lie, like, it was crazy because this is when I thought like a lot of the stuff that came with church was a little crazy. But even though a lot come with church, it was crazy right now.
Yeah.
But
That's true.
but no, I started going to this church, and I still was outside doing the things I was doing, and I used to sit all the way up top because I felt like I didn't belong. I'm like, yo, I just want to come in here, then stay out the way, but just see what's going on. And it was like one of those moments where it's like you felt like, man, that message was for me.
Yeah.
And like everybody's been there before, you know what I'm saying? So I mean, I get told as a pastor, now, Pastor, you was talking to me, and I'm like, I guess, but like I gave out what God gave me.
Right.
But I was excited about it, and like I literally was going back to the block talking to guys in the neighborhood, like, yo, man, church was crazy, and they like, man, you really just left church, you back there? Yeah. And one day, a pastor, he was associate pastor, but he pointed up to me, and he was just like, yo, I'm gonna talk to you, and I'm like scared to death, and I'm not even scared. I'm not a person that's scared of anything, but I'm like, why does the pastor want to talk to me?
Wow.
And I didn't even know he was paying me any mind, sitting all the way up there.
Right.
And like, I walked down, everybody's done talking to him and all of that, and I was just like, what's up? Like, he's like, yo, can I get your number? And he's like, man, I want to share some things with you. And I'll speed it up to 22, but this is about 21, and he tells me that like God is calling, me to help you to start a ministry for young adults. So like for me, like I'm laughing deep down inside, like this guy's crazy talking about God talk to him because God couldn't have told him that. Like I got a gun in the car, some other stuff. I'm like, this dude couldn't be hearing from God talking about God want me to start something. And he asked me like, yo, I want to disciple you, train you up. You want to go on this journey? So I'm like, I want to come back next week. So I'm just like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
And like at that moment, he began to disciple me, journey me along, and start having me hang out with him and others. And I started going to a lot of stuff that was like Christian-y, and I won't lie, like I thought it was corny. Little cafes and little this and little that stuff that he was asking me to go to. But there was like a piece in it though that like when I was driving back home, I didn't have to go check my mirrors out to see if anybody's following me and everything else. I'm like, all right, I can go out and this is cool, it's chill. And people mean well, you know what I'm saying? So about 9 months into that or so, about 10 months in, I get arrested for a charge, get out on bail. And I was actually arrested for attempted murder. And I get out on bail, I'm out on bail. I go ahead and month into it, I'm, confronting people about money that's owed to me. Cause like, you gotta pay a lawyer, like, and you facing, violent crimes, drama, like you really gotta pay a lot of money for a lawyer. So get into a dispute with somebody that actually owed me money, and it turned into a scenario, and the gentleman sits there and tries to like turn it into him being a victim instead of like him basically saying it was a debt that was owed. So I'm locked up a month later. The same assistant district attorney made my bail $500,000. And I'm like, all right, I ain't got no bail money for this. Like, I gotta sit.
Gosh, yeah.
Now, the reason why I'm pushing all of that up to that point was that turning point, that moment was when a lot of people, like even in the streets, begin to count you out, especially when they count your charges. Because that's when it's like, all right, hold on. I may not have to answer the phone for him because he about to go away for a while. Family members give up on you. There was my reverend, Tyreek Craig, by the way. He told me, I know what God called you to. I'm here for you.
Wow.
So, like, literally told me that and said, yo, I'm here. I know what God called you to. I'm here for you. And, it was because of him. It really made me go and focus. And when it became so popular for everybody to take their shahada and turn Muslims for protection and all that kind of stuff in jails, I told God, I'm coming in here Christian, I'm leaving Christian. And that right there was like, and I was on a drama block where everybody fought drama, like violent crime. So like we had all the tough guys on our block. And I was just like, yo, I am who I am before I came in here. Like, so I started grabbing brothers, bringing them in for prayer when dudes used to turn their wristbands upside down because they didn't want you to know their religion, and wasn't wearing Christianity with pride. We talking 2010 at the time, 2011, 2010. And, I had brothers going out in the day room praying. And it was in there I got a job working with the chaplain Ronald Muse, in the church. Church was every day at the county jail, so I was cool. And I'm getting books on systematic theology. I'm spending time with the young guys. I'm saying young guys, but they were just, 18. So they're a little younger than me. I just had more responsibility. So I'm an old 22. But these guys are in there for homicides, but they're still acting like they're 13. But that was because they never got a chance to grow up. They were forced into doing what they're doing because of the streets. So I told God, like, Lord, it didn't dawn on me till people started calling me Rev on the block. I'm hosting Bible study on the block. Then I said, man, what Reverend Tyreek said was right. I got this heart for these younger guys. And I said, man, Lord, I made one of those deals, not, the typical jailhouse deal, but I'm like, Lord, yo, you get me out of this. This is what I'm doing. So I beat one case, the main one. And the second one, they let me out on pretrial house arrest because they kept pushing my dates around, trying to stall out. Made me sit on house arrest for additional 20 months. I did 13 months in. But in there, I was hosting Bible study, prayer calls, everything. My reverend licensed me in the ministry. He had lymphoma cancer. He passed away. So ultimately, we didn't get to work together when I came out of that. But I told God, like, this is what I'm doing. So ultimately, I did work against my lawyer's advice. They actually offered me to take time served for 3 years, take 2 violent felonies, and walk off 7 years of probation. And he was like, you do know if you take this deal, like you can face a mandatory 15 years, you do something violent again. I said, bro, I'm done. So I went ahead, walked off 7 years with ease because I hit the ground running, did the work. Culture Changing Christians was created. We hit the ground running, doing all kinds of ministry in communities and everything else. And the rest was like history from there. So, So like, that was just the work. But I will say that like my reverend, like that was the first real authentic sign of like, to me, seeing Christian love. Like there was no judgment there. There was nothing but a man that was dedicated to saying like, no, I know what God told you. So it was like, for all of that to materialize, that's why, like I told you earlier, like, I don't regret not being a sports agent or nothing. Like, I realized, like, what had to be done, Right. I guess I say the only thing I regret was, like, not knowing Jesus earlier. But, like, but yeah, so, that's that.
Wow. So in these formative years, you are just doing hands-on ministry. And you get out. What's next for you? What do you go to next after you got out?
After I got out?
Yeah.
I mean, I started everything that I was passionate about. I started mobilizing a bunch of young adults. My mission at first was just to be a bridge between the church and, young Black folk who left the church, evacuated the church.
Yeah.
Which ended up turning into me creating a bunch of servant initiatives to where I realized that a lot of people really wanted to get involved. They just was doing it apart from church, so nobody had an issue with ministry, they had an issue with church. So like, I was mobilizing all kinds of people. And then when people didn't want to go to church, I hosted what we call Church in the Wild. We used to set up, have speakers. We would always have a servant project while we would do a Sunday service for the homeless community. So we would be giving out food, feeding, clothing, all kinds of stuff, and build amongst that community and find out whatever needs they needed in between. We also served at a place called Broad Street Ministries, where every Sunday evening we would wait, hand and foot on the homeless, serve them, prepare their meals, everything else, clean up after them, become like waiters, and like literally be servants that Christ asked us to be. So in the midst of that, like, began to host Bible studies. We had about 60 to 70 men gather in a rec center at Hunting Park Rec. It was called Sons of the King Bible Study. So like after that, like I had everything you could think of, toy drives, Christmas, everything, Thanksgiving, backpacks, all that stuff. I mean, before it became the norm and a popular thing to do now.
Right.
But I mean, we had a lot of people that we were mobilizing and, doing this work with, to the point where I began to consult with churches about like how to get out and do this work. But even at the Bible study, I used to bring pastors in and be like, look, bro, I want them to connect with y'all, build with y'all. Like, I'm just here to help introduce them, and I'll introduce y'all to them so that they can go there. Because for me, I did not want a pastor. Honestly, that was another thing that I viewed as corny. I was like, I don't want a pastor. And I don't want to be indoors all day. I'm like, I'd rather be outside. I love being outside, being amongst people. So it wasn't until like I did a consultation with another cluster of pastors up in North Jersey, and I turned down 3 churches. And I have a spiritual father who is a mentor to me, and he just kept trying to get me to start a church. He's like, "You running a church on wheels, start a church." And I'm like, nah, And he sit me down with church networks, and I'm just like, I'll sit down. But I knew in my heart I wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
It was a pastor hit me up from Montclair, New Jersey, and asked me, said, "We need you." And I'm like, "Need me what?" I said, "We'll come out, set an event up out there, and we got y'all." And he asked me to join the staff. I promised everybody I would consider the next one. Took the role, and was pastoring in 2 cities, because ultimately I planted in Philly 2 years later. So I was going all the way up an hour 40 to Montclair, New Jersey, preach a service, do a service, doing the same thing in Philly right afterwards. I was doing that for years, all the way up into the pandemic. So I was pastoring like millennial college students and stuff like that from the area up there. All the while still just doing a lot of the outreach stuff while pastoring, because the conviction I got from God was, you're trying to change the culture change the Christians. You're trying to change the culture outside the church. Who's going to do it inside? Ooh. So that's when insert me into the conversation. But, just doing the work and trying to create a different representation of the way people see pastoring. So, and once I realized that, I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'll do it. And like, not to sound crazy or nothing, but I'm like, I'll do it my way, like my style, like that God wants me to do it. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like his way ultimately, but do it in the vein that he wants me to represent. Yeah. And like from there, I took on just more responsibility. Elected officials, all kinds of other people begin to gravitate, and just seeing my effectiveness with that, and just, and I don't know, years later, like more and more grew gradually, and like I'm able to do a lot of what I do and had all kinds of experiences. So yeah, that's how we got here. But it took a lot of poverty, poor years of work, hard labor,
unglamorous stuff,
and unglamorous faithfulness. I'm gathering donations and putting Christmas together for community that barely can make a Christmas for my own family. And people, that's the kind of stuff that, people want to go viral with, or think they deserve stuff that people have, and they won't put a morsel of that type of faithfulness together. They'll go be a serial entrepreneur somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. real quick. So, anything people see me do or see me at or see me have, like, they don't know, like, I slaved, you know what I'm saying? And still do to this very day. Yeah. So.
What's the potentially hidden toll or hidden cost that you've, had to pay in order to remain faithful?
That's a good question. I think the hidden cost in this, and I think it varies, for everybody. One thing that I realized with a lot of pastors, and we all kind of glean from each other or push each other, encourage each other, where we could be real raw and be real humans with each other. For me, for the majority of the time, I'm my real raw human self. So that's one of the things that they always say they marvel about me. They like, bro, you just say whatever and do whatever and you just move. I'm like, bro, but because I realize this, a lot of pastors, the toll for them is they have to live in a box. They have to be plastic. You know what I'm saying? Like, they have to fit a mold. They have to carry things a certain way. They have to, and that is very, very taxing when you feel like, you can't be away, you can't say a thing, or you have to look away, or, and for me, too many people have different ideologies and variations of Christianity for you to all day to try to meet somebody's standard. So Paul said, I can't live to be a people pleaser. No longer a people pleaser. So I wouldn't be a servant of Christ. So for me, I'm like, bro, I can only serve one person. And if I'm gonna be a servant to the people, I'm serving their opinions. Right. And that changes, the same way laws and popular culture and everything else changes. So I do think that that's a big issue. I think for me, I think it's twofold with taxing. You know, a lot of this work it can be lonely, to where you have a lot on your plate and you have to take a lot on. And I think that one of the easiest things for people to talk about is, don't burn yourself out, right? But that's cute. It sounds cute, right? Mental health perspective, it sounds cute. But when you really got to do it all, you know, in a day and age where you have to build a ministry and you have to build your own website, you have to be your own marketing team, because you ain't white, you ain't privileged like that, you don't come from no money. You got to do all of that. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, you ain't eating. Right. Otherwise, rent ain't getting paid. Right. So, folks, it's easy for people to talk that. And especially it's like when you're in particular church contexts where everybody want to be paid for everything and going into days where you got a plethora or surplus of volunteers, you got to do all of that. So you sacrifice sleep and you sacrifice a lot. And I still don't know what the trigger point was. I'm trying not to blame ministry, but I don't know where else it came from. But at 30, I was diagnosed with epilepsy. I had crazy episodes of seizures, and I battled with this over the last, I'm 40 now, but I've been almost 3 years seizure free now, praise God. But I've been in ICUs. I've been having to be, sedated and put out because having multiple seizures and air flow in the hospitals and been in ICUs for 5 days, like out of it, not literally like
Jesus.
Waking up 5 days later and, I'm looking at family like, what just went on? So I had a seizure on stage before, fell off stage, hit my head, concussed, face swollen, battled vertigo for months, So it's like, that's the cost, like that's the cost sometimes. And so imagine going through that, but then you fighting because your family fears, but it's like, I'm not living by fear. I got to get on flights. I got to still go out and speak, even though I fell off the stage before, like I'm still here. So it's like when people don't understand that type of cause, but then kind of like begin to build, I don't know, levels of animosity or, envy or whatever it is that, kind of motivates people to like, find a way to find something wrong with you or despise you. This is what we do to our people. It ain't even just the Christians, but it's the black people in general. We do this a lot of times. We don't know what it costs people. And it's like, but some of those things, it's taxing, and relationally, like it's taxing, if you got to do a lot of work on your own, meaning you don't got a lot of time for everybody. Yeah. And when you're on assignment, sometimes it can't make sense to everybody, because you got to do what you do to get to where you go. And then they catch up with it later to understand why you had to make sacrifices. So, yeah, that's a great question. I'm gonna stop there, but I think it's a great question.
No, that was a great answer and great insight, because following Jesus costs something.
Count the cost.
But then being a leader is
being a leader.
Easily double. Easily double. As we get ready to close, I have 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
So one, what do you think is most misunderstood about the upcoming generation?
Okay.
What is most misunderstood?
Okay. Man, that's a hard question. What I think is most misunderstood about this upcoming generation, I think most people are just writing them off and saying that they're doomed. I think what we don't hone in on enough is their brilliance. And when I say brilliance, I'm not talking like politically. We shouldn't learn from this generation politically. But in matters pertaining to probably community building. But what I will say is their ability to rapidly learn, master technology, and really like move as fast as the times are moving. I think that there's a lot to learn from them. Yeah. And I think that if we would empower them and value them and align, certain essential core things that's needed for a lot of our movements. Because I believe, like millennials, we were graced and blessed enough to kind of know how things were. Be at the beginning of the internet and still be here while the internet's evolving and thriving. Right. But like, there's things that this Gen Z community, they're quicker than us with it. So it's like, no, how can I find value or what you're passionate about and help plug you in and let you know that you too can be a leader amongst this thing?
Yeah.
Because I think too often we talk down at them and say, yeah, you know, y'all crazy and y'all don't get it. And now we sound like the elders that we was mad at that was trying to tell us. But at least we knew how to use the dial-up internet. They weren't even hip to a computer. But yeah, so I think that that's misunderstood. So I think that there's plenty value in this up and coming generation. I think that, you know, we just really got to tap into what they're passionate about and then also have a willingness to learn from them, but utilize them the best way that we can while we pass the torch. Because I think it's so important that we pass the torch earlier. You know, I tell my son that now. I don't want to be 55 moving at the pace that I'm moving. Like, I'd rather be 48 and just be the OG, just giving advice while I'm still youngish, you know, and being able to run around and enjoy myself. So
That's good. That's a good word, especially about, we've seen this before. We've had to live through it. So it would be great if we could be a part of changing that cycle. Last question for you. When you think about your legacy and your witness, the way you lead your life, what do you want generations after you to experience and to hold on to and to carry on? As you said, the baton. What's the baton you want them to carry?
For my legacy?
Yeah.
For my legacy, I would really want people to see the importance of selflessness. You know, really, you know, taking action, and creating and continuing in the spirit of creating tangible action. You know, as you can see, I have a lot of the legends tattooed on me. I got more on my legs because I believe in, I love history, especially our history, you know. So, you know, Harriet and Ida B. Wells and Frederick Douglass and Whitney Young and all kinds of others on me, Garvey. And King and Malcolm and the Panthers. But like, I believe that we have to update our software in the world of activism and advocacy. I believe too many people are taking a lazy way out. And I work in various spheres of activism and rebuilding bridges between Blacks and Jews and all kinds of people. But these guys started the wave of, hey, let's get out and march.
Yeah.
You know, it was innovative at its time, for its time. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, let's do some sit-ins. You know what I mean? And the equivalency of that now is like, hey, let's create a social media campaign. Let's create a hashtag. And then still let's go out and perhaps let's burn some stuff. We're running off an antiquated playbook.
Yeah.
You know, white supremacy, the enemy, all kinds of different things are sitting there relaxing. You know what I'm saying? Police like, oh, overtime today. They about to be out here marching and yelling with the bull horns. They might do a few dances and everything else out there. And, you know, it's all good. We got extra 8 hours. That's it. So for me, like, because I learned history and study history and learn from the greats and get to glean from them, I always want to be forward thinking. So that like from there, hopefully I'm building up others who are under me that may be a little more innovative because they know their generation closer because they're closer to it to say, you know what, like we have to continue to keep creating something that's going to be sustainable, that's going to actually be tangible. Because right now that's part of the biggest level of confusion and frustration. Yeah. People don't feel like they're not heard now. Well, everybody's heard. So I got to pull your phone out. You can shoot a video you heard, but nothing's happening while you're being heard. And there's no innovation. So for me, you know, when I'm creating models and communities to where young Black men are being paid to, you know, come in, get recalibrated for 4 months, they get a job in 30 days, and we actually help them launch and jumpstart their own businesses. Like, no, I don't want to just tell Black men, you're great, you can do it, and then just put you in a 12-hour job. We're going to teach you how to be self-sufficient and future-proof you. You know what I'm saying? So, and then also create an incubator space that can cultivate you and cultivate your business to provide wraparound services. So for me, then from there, I'm hoping the young man I'm pouring into going to come up with whatever's next for his community, you know, his generation. So from there, now we're talking about real movements that move without us. And that's just what it is. If I die and everything died with me, I failed. You know, so like, no, how does the movement continue to move? And to me, that's real legacy. So hopefully I can look up and there may be 10 to 20 people that decide to be culture changers and, you know, become giants, you know, for their next generation. And they do the same thing. So, yeah, I don't want activism and advocacy to become stagnant. You know what I'm saying? Politics, we see it now. They yell on the House of Representatives. They'll yell on the House of Representatives floor. Or Cory Booker sits there for 48 hours. And then like we clap over that. And it's just like, what was the tangible that came away? What's the call to action? What's the game plan? And I think that that's something that's been holding us back. So, you know, I sleep very little, you know, always figuring out, I get all of the intellectualism, but what are we about to do? And we at the church got to do that too. Got to stop just preaching in house, becoming the heresy police, trying to talk about how do we out-argue other Christians or other people with our apologetics. All that stuff's important. But at the same time, we got to show our faith by works. We got to win people over by what we do and put our orthopraxy to work. Because this day and age, everybody has information. Yeah. So all we do is chat GBT and it's like, all right, this is how I'm going to clap back at this Christian girl right now and got a way better script. That's cool. Right. But guess what? If I'm showing my faith by my work, show me what other institution going to outwork the church if we really working. So for me, we begin to win people over. You know, even when we going through perceived hell and we still praising our Lord, we going to look crazy and Christian. Somebody going to say, yo, I want what you got because you happy and we both don't got job. Right. I got Jesus. So for me, I think that's just, I'm focused and driven by the work, you know, and I got a company that's called Win with the Work. Like, we got to win with this work. So for me, activism, advocacy, we don't win unless we work it. I tell people all the time, don't ask me to go to a march. If I want to walk, I'll exercise. Like, what are we going to do beyond that? Because we've become now, you know, conditioned to think that's our form of activism or advocacy. When it's like the oligarchs are just going to make more money. Like, oh no, y'all got X popping. Y'all got Meta popping. You see what I'm saying? Like, oh, all y'all arguing on here. Look at the numbers. And, you know, they getting ad revenue. Look at these fools. They arguing about this now. Right. What else we doing? So for me, you know, yeah, I want people to say like, yo, this dude, if he was alive, he'd be actually, what y'all doing? Like, all right, we arguing, but what we doing? Right. So that's what I would love to see.
That was a good word. Thank you, Pastor. Pastor Carl, thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you for sharing your heart, your story, and helping us to remain activated towards pursuing action and not just talking, going beyond words. So we look forward to staying in touch with all the work that you're doing here at The Witness. And to everyone that's listening, thank you so much for tuning in today. Praying that you have a week that is filled with peace and love. Amen. Thank you so much. Hey, family. Thanks for spending time with us on Can I Get a Witness? It's always an honor to share stories that remind us of who we are and whose we are. Follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, at The Witness BCC, and visit thewitnessinc.com to join the movement and stay tuned. Until next time, keep shining, keep showing up, and keep bearing witness.